Today I want to share with you my thoughts on the Kodak Smart Home Cherish baby monitor, specifically the model here C525P. Many of us are pretty familiar with the Kodak brand, at least when it comes to cameras from our younger days. They've since branched out, and this is the Kodak Smart Home line, which, you guessed it, focuses on smart home products. With a second child, it was about time to get another baby monitor. Kodak is known for camera, so when I saw that they made a baby monitor jam-packed with features, I thought, let's give it a try. They currently have three models, the C120, C225, and the C525P. The C120 is the simple one, with no pan or tilt, just the basics. You would use their app as the monitor. As far as I can tell, the camera on the C225 and the C525P models are identical. The camera can be controlled with the included monitor or the app to adjust the pan and tilt to adjust the various different viewing angles. The difference between the two models seems to be the monitor that's included. The C25 comes with a 2.8-inch screen monitor, while the C525P comes with a 5-inch screen monitor. There's only a $30 difference between the two models, so I opt for the larger screen. I could see the appeal in saving a bit of money and going with the smaller screen, since you do have the app that you can use with your smartphone or tablet as a monitor. More on the app a little bit later. Let's talk about the features I like about this baby monitor. I found that cameras where you have the option to pan and tilt are pretty much a must-have, especially with babies and children who move around a lot when they sleep. Kodak advertises this camera as a 360-degree view of the room, which for the most part is true. The pan, which is the left and right direction, rotates 355 degrees, which lets you see the whole room. The tilt, the up and down direction, is about 120-degree rotation, which I find is more than enough for most places you would put a camera in the room. As far as the image quality goes, I would have to say it's a pretty decent image. This streams at 720p, which is HD, and at a 5-inch screen, it's pretty sharp. I would prefer 180p, but 720p is still pretty good, and you're still able to catch all the action of your baby moving around and crying. The lens in the camera allows for an 85-degree viewing angle. Not the widest I've seen, but one of the wider ones in the market. Most other baby monitors don't even mention the viewing angles, as they're generally a bit more narrow. Wider is nice, as this allows you to see more of the room on the monitor. While yes, it's true you could just pan and tilt to see more of the room, I find it easier to not have to fiddle with the camera angle. The baby monitor has a 2100 mAh removable battery. I don't see this very often in any of the baby monitors in the market. This means that if your battery life on a monitor starts to suffer and it dies too early, you can just replace the battery instead of replacing the whole monitor. Kodak says it lasts up to 6 hours of active monitoring, but I'm not getting that mileage. I'm getting a little bit over 4 hours. The monitor does have the option to turn off the screen, but still monitor audio. So that's what they might mean by active monitoring. However, this really isn't an issue, as for naps, 4 hours is plenty, and anything longer, it has a Type-C port in the back, so most of the phone chargers and even the newer MacBook chargers work with it. Although they do suggest you only use the included AC adapter for charging the baby monitor, I haven't had any issues using any other ones I have. The baby monitor, in addition to showing the camera feed, it also shows you the unit's battery life, time, and room temperature. That's the temperature of the room the camera is in, and not the baby monitor. They also have this feature called Vox, Voice Activated Alert, which basically allows you to set the sensitivity of the mic on the camera before it alerts you that the baby is making noise. The reason you would want to use this is if your camera is close to a fan or AC unit, this way it'll ignore the white noise. And it'll also ignore music if you have a white noise machine. This next feature isn't something I use, but I could see some might find it handy. You can use the monitor to play 5 different lullabies. The camera itself has speakers to play the music. Another neat feature is that you can use two-way communications, meaning not only can you hear your child, but you can also speak to them if you like. This comes in handy if you're a bit further away and you can't get to the room fast enough, you can still soothe them and talk to them. You also have the option to turn on sounds and motion notifications, so whenever a sound or motion happens, you'll get an alert. I find this is more helpful if you're using the app, as the monitor already has these LEDs on top that alert you for sounds. Since we're on the topic of the app, it does everything the monitor can, but it's much easier to change settings. The monitor, it's a bit clunky to navigate the menu and select and go back, while using the app is pretty simple. There are also some additional settings that you can access and change on the app that you can't on the monitor, like turning off the blue LED indicator on the camera. I would suggest turning it off, as it's less of a distraction. While it's not an overly bright light, in a dark room it's still quite noticeable. One of my favorite features of this camera is how clear the night vision is. I've owned several security cameras and a couple baby monitors, and this is by far one of the sharpest night vision I've seen. You also have the option to put a micro SD card into the camera so you can record sound and motion events. Although I'm not quite sure why anyone would need this, let me know down below in the comment section if this is a feature you want and why. I'm just curious to see how other parents would use it. Should you decide you like this camera system, you can purchase a second camera and view both the cameras on the same monitor with a split screen. When you first turn on your baby monitor, the camera and the monitor are already paired, so you don't have to do anything if you don't plan on using the app. This is what they call direct mode, where the monitor connects directly to the camera. If you want to use the app as a monitor, setup is fairly easy. Just follow the instructions once you've downloaded the app. You will have to make a Kodak account, and I can't remember if you're required to update the firmware on the camera and monitor, but if you do, it takes about 45 minutes, so don't do this if you're in a rush. So of course, using the app is a huge advantage of this mode, but one big one that many people do overlook is that since everything is connected to Wi-Fi, your signal in theory should be better as long as your Wi-Fi signal is strong, so you should have less connection issues. And just in case you're wondering, the app still works even if you're not on the same Wi-Fi connection, so you can use your mobile data to view the monitor. The last mode is called home mode, which at first glance, one would think it's identical to direct mode, except in this mode, your camera completely disconnects from the Wi-Fi router versus direct mode where it'll stay connected to Wi-Fi. The advantage of this mode is that you won't have to rely on a Wi-Fi network, so less chances of anyone hacking the camera. On the website, they mentioned that in this mode, you can still monitor if there are connection issues or unexpected power outages. But I'm not sure how the camera will turn on without power. As far as I know, there's no battery inside this camera. Even if you don't plan to use the app, I suggest you still make a Kodak account to update the firmware on the camera and monitor. Firmware is always good for security and bug fixes. You can always change it back to home mode afterwards. Now let's talk about some of the stuff about the camera that I'm not as excited about. The first is the controls on the monitor. They're a bit clunky. Navigating it through the features is not very intuitive. It takes a while to get used to. The good thing is changing settings in the app is pretty easy. Another thing that bothers me is when controlling the camera, there's a bit of a lag when I press the button and when the camera starts moving. The lag isn't nearly as bad when the monitor is in router mode, but it's still not super responsive, but much better. The lag when using the app is about the same as router mode, but the app has a totally different problem, at least for me. For me, if I want to move the camera to see more of the left, I would slide my finger towards the left as I want to move the camera towards that direction. However, as you can see, this actually makes the camera go to the right. The reason behind this is that they set it up more of you're dragging the screen instead of controlling the camera. It's kind of like how you would look at a zoomed in picture. It's not a huge deal as I'm not constantly adjusting the camera, but I wish they had the option for us to select how we want to control the camera. The last thing that bothers me is the mounting options. They have 2 mounting points on the bottom, but it's only for screws and they don't offer any other accessories. I'm not a fan of drilling holes in my wall, so I would have liked to see a crib mount. I'm not saying include it, but at least have the option for us to purchase it. I don't use a crib mount for mounting on the cribs, but I use it for better hold on shelves. The camera does have these rubber stoppers on the bottom to keep it in place on a flat surface, which would be good if you have a higher bookshelf or if you don't have toddlers. Our bookshelf is a bit low, so our toddler would be able to kind of access the camera a little bit too easily. I ended up purchasing one of these corner mounts that use double-sided tape, but I would have still preferred to use a crib mount as they're more stable. For me, the pros outweigh the cons by quite a bit. At $179.99, the price is a bit higher than many others on the market, but the features are really nice. I'll mainly be using the monitor, but should I forget to charge it, I can use my phone as a backup. Or if I'm away from home and we have a babysitter watching the kids, I can always check in to see how things are doing. If you've enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up and make sure to subscribe for more baby toddler product reviews as well as Montessori inspired content. I'll catch you next time.